Chapter 633. That's right, the girl was a Spade fan, the type that had been playing for years. If she hadn't seen her big Spade, she could confidently say that she had become a Spade fan because of the youngster's beautiful skills and techniques, not because of his looks. After seeing him, he was really handsome. She wanted to call her friends over, but at the same time, she knew that not prying into Big Spade's privacy was the best way to protect the youngster. Hence, he stood beside the young man silently. All he wanted was to get a little closer. Truly liking someone seemed to be like this, always making the other party feel comfortable, not necessarily doing something to let the other party know. But why was her Big Spade's stomach so bulging? And why was the bulge moving upwards? Perhaps noticing the gaze from the side, the young man looked up. Princess followed the zipper that the young man had unzipped for her, revealing her little head. On her head were pure white cat ears that were still moving. That scene was so cute that it could make people have a nosebleed, especially when the youngster raised his hand to adjust his collar, not covering it, and pulled on his wristband as if nothing had happened. He looked really cool. But Big Spade, you're going to be skewered. The girl really wanted to laugh. Bojio seemed to have sensed the commotion. She turned and placed a finger on her lips, gesturing for the girl to keep quiet. Just pretend you didn't see anything. All right. The girl lowered her voice. Can I tell you that I'm a Spade fan and I like you a lot? Bojio felt that her life was a cheat. Wherever she went, she would meet fans. The unexpected answer made her pause. On the other hand, the cat in Bojio's arms started to react. It started to bristle with an expression that said, "How dare you cheat on me behind my back? Are you tired of living, you stupid human?" Bojio didn't reply. She forced herself to suppress it. She held the cat with one hand and pressed its head down with the other. Indeed, she was too busy. The more the girl watched, the more she wanted to laugh. Bojio wasn't good at communicating with fans, so she used Princess to act cute the entire time. But the princess really didn't seem like a tomcat. Why did it seem like it was risking its life when it saw a woman? If it weren't for her powerful threat, the princess would have blown her up too. To be honest, it was too dangerous for the Almighty to raise such a cat. It could even smell a woman dressed as a man. Could it be a police cat? The two chatted for a while. Fortunately, this was a topic that the youth was good at. For example, games. Student Joe had a way of talking about games. When he heard that the girl was playing as a tank, he immediately gave a few words of advice. When you're playing, pay attention to whether there are any ranged attackers behind you. If there are, don't be afraid. Both of you can charge forward. If the opponent attacks you, you won't lose any HP. Once you're ready, it's very easy to kill the opponent's half HP. If you're good at playing, then pay attention to your positioning, how to dodge and attack. Practice the reaction speed of your fingers, avoid the opponent's attack, and hit the opponent's fragile DPS first. Time ticked by as the young man spoke. Finally, Bojio was about to alight. The girl tugged at the youth's sleeves, her eyes shining. National competition, please do your best. All right. Bojio smiled brightly. She stuffed one hand into her pocket, the other holding the cat as she walked into the crowd. This day had finally arrived. Chapter 634. Countless cameras were installed in the room. All the gaming platforms were ready to go, ready to broadcast live at any time. The field control held the loudspeaker in his hand and shouted until his mouth was dry. He finally stopped to drink a glass of water. This was different from the previous regional competition. What did the national competition mean? It meant that from now on, every one of them would be known by the people who played the game. Even the pictures of some MVP players would be broadcast all day and become the advertising spokespersons of some gaming companies. This match had determined the fate of many people for a long time. It was like a celebrity talent show, but different from a celebrity talent show, because their success or failure depended on the team, because their original intention hadn't changed. They didn't want to have any regrets, they wanted to be recognized, and they wanted to fight side by side with their teammates. 7:30 in the morning. Shui Yaoyao prepared everything and went downstairs. She thought that she had never faced the gaze of her neighbors so calmly. All the sarcasm and malicious misunderstandings. At that moment, it didn't seem important. She wanted to go on a date that belonged to her youth. Just the thought that she still had a group of teammates ignited her blood. There seemed to be a kind of person, that kind of existence, that could become your strength. For example, Her Highness Jiao. Even though her mother married into the Jiang family, Shui Yaoyao's travel schedule didn't change. It took half an hour to run from home to the competition venue. She adjusted her watch, put on her uniform, and stepped on the sidewalk. Yunhu and Lin Feng appeared together. They got out of a Land Rover, each carrying a pure black shoulder bag, looking very handsome. Feng Shang came earlier than others because his brother Feng Yi had to lead the fan group into the venue. And Han Susu's thoughts were on this. She had met some Spade fans before, and now she had feelings for them, so it was convenient to talk about this kind of thing. Actually, at the beginning, Han Susu went to find Sister Turtle. After all, Sister Turtle was recognized as the leader of Spade fans. She even had contact with the officials and was recognized by them. As long as she conquered the officials, everything else would be easy. She told Sister Turtle about her feelings for Spade Z. Sister Turtle sent a hug icon. It's the same for everyone. Han Susu had chatted with Sister Turtle more than once, so it was convenient to talk again. In the past, she thought she liked Spade Z too much and wanted to know a lot about him. But even her brother couldn't ask her out. This time, she wanted to ask Sister Turtle to include her in the official fan group to support the live event. Sister Turtle was also busy and sent a message. I need the official list of the members. Han Susu coaxed and pestered, but it was to no avail. The other party's attitude remained the same. What a tough rock, he didn't even know how to be flexible. Why was he so difficult to approach? He wasn't like the Spade fans she had interacted with previously. Han Susu had learned her lesson from Sister Turtle, so she began to think of other ways. Finally, 3 people told her what the itinerary was like. With that, all the preparations were done. Then he found his own people and the 4 Spade fans to head to the competition venue. Let's first talk about the on-site screening. Although the fans were organized by the officials, there were audience members who could buy tickets to enter the venue. Han Susu made use of this opportunity to bring her people into the venue. She wanted to see if the youth could still maintain his composure when he was questioned by the crowd. Chapter 635. If you didn't like it before, then he wouldn't have become a terrifying existence. Some people always had the ability to misinterpret things. If she couldn't get anything in return, then the other party must have let her down. Moreover, she did not need to say anything when she arrived at the venue. The people she brought were enough to heat up the venue. Looking around, Han Susu brought her people to sit outside the Spade fan group, waiting for the contestants to enter the stadium. Every team had their own resting area. After Feng Yi arranged the Supreme Alliance fans, he came to the rest area, a sly smile on his face. It's time for the last time. Are you all here? Of course. Lin Feng smiled. He was dressed in a handsome black uniform and placed his arm on Yunhu's shoulder. Yunhu remained silent, but his eyes shone with a different light than usual. Feng Shang was still stuttering. Captain isn't here yet. Feng Yi stilled. He had come early to inform everyone that Qin Mo wouldn't be appearing in the competition for the next 15 days. But it was one thing to think it through, and another thing to say it. Because the war was imminent, Almighty Qin's departure would definitely affect the team's morale. At that moment he heard a swoosh. The black skateboard smashed open the wooden door, and the youth's handsome figure and shiny silver hair appeared. Captain isn't here, but Captain's cat is. With that, Bojo pulled down the zipper, revealing a pair of majestic cat faces. Meow. Let me introduce you, Princess. Bojo smiled faintly. It's to supervise everyone. The princess wanted to explode, so she raised her tail. Bojo pressed her fingers. Princess means that it represents captain, and I'm honored to be everyone's vice captain. In the future, everyone can call me Little Captain. Using Baby Fang's words, I'll lead you to destroy people and fly. Lin Feng was stunned for a moment. Then he reached out and caressed the cat's head. He purposely avoided asking about Qin Mo and said in a low voice, Female cat? Meow. A male. Bojo smiled faintly. Male? He's a male. What princess? Lin Feng was shocked. Bojo arched a brow. You have to ask the Almighty. Lin Feng shook his head. Indeed, we mortals can't understand Captain's hobby. Everyone had a tacit understanding not to ask about his whereabouts. Perhaps this was the Supreme Alliance. Some questions would become a burden to the youth if he asked, so he decided not to ask. In Wuyao had been through a lot. He knew very well what it was like for a team to face the National League without their captain. He also understood what the young man who took over the position of vice-captain would have to shoulder in the future. Spitting out the cigarette in his mouth, In Wuyao walked over and extended his hand. Vice-captain, are you ready to take us to destroy them? What do you think? The youngster held the cat in one hand and stretched out the other. Supreme Alliance had always had a tacit understanding. They are not perfect. In fact, because of their unique playstyles, everyone had flaws in the game. Among them, there were even 2 rookies who had never seen a national competition. Some of them came from the most remote mountain villages in the county. However, this did not affect their cohesiveness. Everyone held out their hands. Layer after layer stacked on top of each other, with a snow-white fat cat in the middle. Chapter 636. That lounge became the place where everyone dreamed of setting sail. In the arena, all the cameras were set and ready, just waiting for the team to enter. At this moment, all the fans stood up, surrounding both sides of the road to show their support. On the Spade fans' side, there was a huge banner. Under the banner was a beautiful mature woman, standing tall and straight. She looked to be in her 30s, with medium-length brown curly hair draping down her sides. She had a pair of large eyes and was dressed in a professional dress, giving off a sense of security just by standing there. The other Spade fans were adorable, stretching their necks out. They were the quietest among all the fans, but their eyes were shining brightly. Finally, someone walked out from the other side. All the lights gathered, forming a horizontal line. There was a total of 11 people, dressed in their uniforms, looking like a commander from Star Trek, exuding a handsome aura. But this time, Bojo was the one leading the team. The youngster had black eyes and silver hair, carrying a white cat in her arms. Even though she wasn't tall, she gave off an incomparably sharp aura. In an instant the crowd erupted. The support began. The live stream started, a sea of red. However, just as Bojo led the team into the arena, a person suddenly rushed out, splashing the Coke in his hand at the youngster. A person suddenly rushed out and splashed the Coke in his hand at the young man. A gay treating his fans like this, I'm really speechless. No one had expected such a turn of events. Even Feng Yi froze, his mind blanking out. Sister Turtle was standing far away, unable to walk over. More importantly, there were 3 other Spade fans who surrounded the youngster. Let me ask you, we like you so much, why did you? No one bothered to listen to what they said. It was all in public. This kind of questioning was infinitely magnified and recorded on the camera. The youngster stood there, water droplets dripping down her short black hair, and onto her clothes. Her smoky makeup was slightly damp, with so many people watching and so many cameras. It was such a pathetic scene. The true Spade fans stood up instantly. Their agitated gazes turned into heartache. The youngster had never been treated in such a manner. The white cat was still nestled in her arms. The cameras were anticipating the youngster's loss of control. Han Susu blended in with the crowd, watching the scene. Surprisingly, the young man didn't lose control of himself. He didn't even grab the man's collar and cripple him like before. It wasn't because she was kind, but because she knew how important this competition was, so important that she had to endure it. The cola was still dripping. Bojo raised her hand and pressed her silver hair down. She looked like a Greek god who had stepped into the arena. Her slender legs were dressed in a black uniform, and the corners of her lips were lifted slightly. Even though she was in a sorry state, she was still arrogant and tempting. Do you like me? The youngster arched a brow, asking the 3 fans. The fan felt wronged. Think about it yourself. How did we support you? What happened to you in the end? Chapter 637. Baby Feng clenched his hands. He held back the words that were about to come out. He took a step forward. Both Lin Feng and Yin, whose eyes were deep. Shui Yaoyao wished she had a piece of tissue in her hand, so that she could wipe the stuff off the youngster's face. Even from afar, she could see the heartache of the spade fans. In fact, protection was relative. No one would be able to hold back when they saw the person they liked being treated like that. The spade fans felt heartache and really wanted to retaliate. But at this moment, Sister Turtle stepped forward to block. Let him have a good match. This is the National League. We all know how long they have been preparing. There are fans of the other Supreme Alliance and not just spade fans here. Let them see our support, Supreme Alliance. Victory. Their voices weren't loud, but it was a rallying cry. Unknowingly, under such circumstances, some of the topics that the media was prepared to publish couldn't be published. For example, Spade Z being questioned by his fans because of his sexual orientation. Is such an esports player still worthy of our love? Both topics couldn't be used anymore. The youngster didn't swallow the insult, but he didn't attack either. All of this was because of him. He had to win this match. Otherwise, how could he live up to everything that had happened in the past? How could he live up to those pairs of expectant eyes? How could he live up to his love for esports? There were cameras that scanned the youngster's face. Unknowingly, even though his gaze had never changed, there was an aura. The youngster's face was still stained with cola, but he stood straight, one hand in his pocket, the other holding the white cat, sitting in the competition area. The cameras couldn't capture the rest of the people, but they could clearly hear a wave of discussion. With Sister Turtle there to control the situation, there wasn't much conflict. The measures taken were to get some people to leave the arena. Of course, it was still a grievance. But some people forgot that there was no love in this world that would be questioned by everyone. It was a pity that this love was wasted. Perhaps even they didn't understand how it had turned out this way when they really liked him. This was growing up. Whether it was towards those who used to truly like Spadesy or Spadesy himself. We always had to go through deep and painful training to grow up step by step, to become invincible and indestructible. Alright everyone, look here, look here. This time, the commentator's style had clearly changed. How should I put it? That person was a little girly. As a commentator, I just want to ask, where did Almighty Qin go? Did my eyes deceive me? Spade Z became the vice captain? I say, Supreme Alliance, didn't you choose the captain based on his looks? Sigh, you should have said so earlier. I should have applied for the job too. These words instantly drew a round of boos. However, it was enough to show the skill of the commentator. He had successfully attracted the audience's attention to the match. Chapter 638. I love Spade Z's handsomeness when he fights alone. Why is he fighting a team battle this time? This seems to be the first time Spade Z is fighting a team battle. I'm a little excited. I believe all the fans here are feeling the same way. Let's wait and see. The shoutcaster finished speaking. MH, the other shoutcaster agreed. Let's wait and see. The sharp contrast between the shoutcasters added a lot of fun to the competition. The opposing team was also a respectable opponent. The two sides started fighting. First, it was a 1v1. Yin, who was alone. His playing style was like his character, steady and full of knives. In the end, he won the first round with 1 kill against 3. 2v2. Feng Shang and Yin Wuyao's team. This was a combination no one had expected. After all, Feng Shang was still a newbie. But Bojio didn't think so. This was the initial phase, a good chance to train the newbies. Both Feng Shang and Shui Yaorao had to adapt to the rhythm of the National League as soon as possible. This way, they wouldn't have to cram at the last minute. Feng Shang indeed didn't have much experience in the professional league. But no matter what, he was a famous RMB player in Zone C of Hero. Perhaps many people didn't think that there was anything to be afraid of when he joined the professional league halfway through. But they forgot something. Feng Shang's gaming time and experience wasn't any less than anyone else. The opposing team probably thought that Feng Shang was the easiest target to attack, and wanted to ambush him from the bushes. Unexpectedly, Feng Shang's gaming instincts told him that there was an 80% chance that there was someone there. He first used a big move into the bushes, and then retreated swiftly. Both of them drank half a bottle of HP at the same time. In Wuyao was playing as an assassin. He was originally in the vicinity, and now that the opportunity had come, he sneaked in and attacked. He locked onto one of them. When Feng Shang saw In Wuyao, he moved back to his original position. The two of them instantly formed a team on the left and right. The next second, a sound effect was heard. Oh, they won. This was undoubtedly a reversal of the situation. They thought they would lose. In the end, the opponent neglected the number of deaths and died for the third time. With only one person left, there was no way they could resist In Wuyao and Feng Shang. Finally, team battle. 5v5. Someone shook his head. Even though Supreme Alliance won both matches and the team battle isn't important anymore, I still want to say that just from this 5v5 match, the chances of Supreme Alliance winning aren't high. Why? Almighty Qin's absence is a fatal blow to Supreme Alliance's lineup. You have to know that the most important thing in a 5v5 is the team's compatibility. In other words, a team has to have assassins, sorcerers, support, and tanks. Anyone who has seen Spadesy's results would know that he is an assassin. Lin Feng is also an assassin. With two assassins in a team, without a sorcerer, the chances of winning aren't high. You have to understand that this is the National League, not like the wild games where you can casually take a kill. The opponents are strong too, so this is destined to be a losing battle. If Almighty Qin is here, there won't be a problem because Almighty Qin is an all-rounder. He can handle whatever the team lacks. The man didn't finish his words. A notification sound rang out from the big screen above. Spadesy Sorcerer. Chapter 639. Did Spadesy practice as a sorcerer while he was preparing for the match? Even if he did, it hasn't even been 5 days. He's at a disadvantage playing a character he's not familiar with. Regardless, let's watch. The sound of discussion from the audience was not soft. It was a 5v5 team battle. Bojio sat in the middle, dressed in her uniform with a white cat on her knees. Shui Yaoyao and Lin Feng sat on her left and right. Coco was there as well, playing the support role. But for some reason, such a lineup still made people feel a little worried. When the match starts, regardless of how many players there are in the middle lane, I'll be alone. Bojio instructed in a low voice. Yaoyao, you'll play as the archer and take the bottom lane. The rest of you, go to the top lane. Lin Feng, you'll fight in the jungle at the bottom lane. Don't worry about anything else, just pay attention to the bushes. Now, put on your headphones and switch on the mic. After Bojio finished speaking, everyone put on their headphones, their eyes glued to the screen. Every side profile was filled with a different kind of youth. Such a cool scene was very suitable to be displayed on the big screen. Black combat uniform, delicate and pretty eyebrows. Everyone's posture when choosing their skills was very uniform. And they all pressed the enter key with a crisp sound. Swoosh. The special effects sounded, officially entering the game. The fans outside the arena tightened their grip on the cola bottles in their hands. It's really nerve-wracking, isn't it, fangirls? Come, let's talk about some technical issues. If they split into 3 lanes, the sorcerer would usually take the middle lane. But Spadesy is used to killing and might not be able to adapt to the sorcerer role. This will be the crux of the match. The archer on the bottom lane is important too. If they aren't strong in the early stages, they won't be able to keep up in the later stages. There are indeed many loopholes in Supreme Alliance. Why do you say that? Loopholes? The archer is a newbie. It should be easy to attack her. If I was their team, I would arrange for 2 to take the middle lane, 2 to take the bottom lane, and the other to defend the top lane. Regardless of whether they hit Shui Yaoyao or Spadesy, they would be able to take the first kill and complete the first kill. F***CK, it's really as you said, they are going to take the middle lane and bottom lane in pairs. This is going to be interesting. In the game, Coco hesitated when he saw someone taking the middle lane. Bojio's voice came through the earpiece. Continue attacking. Coco was obedient, but he was worried that Bojio wouldn't be able to hold on. This was indeed the standard of the National League. I know mages don't have much health. The other side sent an assassin and a tank to charge straight at the middle lane. This is a good chance. Hide in the bushes. I'll use a big move to trap Spadesy while you use your big move to kill him. This strategy was most effective against mages. In a team battle, a tank's ultimate skill could directly interrupt a mage's ultimate skill. Moreover, mages had low HP, so if a tank managed to crouch down, they would definitely lose half their HP. In addition, the assassin's ultimate skill, 1 second, could directly reduce the mage's HP to critical. If the mage were to counterattack, it would definitely be enough to kill. On the other side, the vice leader played as a tank, and was very particular about his positioning. He stood in the middle lane, silently waiting for his big move to attract Spadesy's attention. Chapter 640. On the big screen, everyone could see the scene clearly. Unlike the players in the game, they could only see the status of their own team. Hence, when she controlled the ice blade to move forward, every Spadesy fan's heart skipped a beat. Even the shoutcaster's expression changed. Everyone knew that Spadesy was definitely going to die this time. But at this moment, Bojio paused, releasing a freezing skill towards her lower right side. Then she walked back to the defense tower. This series of actions was unexpected. Why is Spadesy releasing skills so randomly? Can he really play like that? His opponent is in front, and he's attacking towards the right. Has he not mastered the skill? Hansusu hadn't been chased out since she hadn't caused any trouble, which meant that she was still in the audience. But due to the incident just now, it wasn't suitable for her to stay among the Spade fans. In order to avoid being discovered, she shifted to the left side, blending into Coco's team since they were closer. Coco's fans were younger and didn't know much about the game. A small portion of them liked Coco because he was cute and adorable. That was why she said those words. Hansusu's eyes shifted. I like the entire Supreme Alliance team and their playing style, but Spadesy's way of doing things is problematic. He clearly can't do it himself, but he still wants to take the middle lane alone. His unique style is really unbearable. What if the team loses because of him? How should I put it? He can still play solo, but as the vice-captain, he might harm Supreme Alliance. For the sake of Supreme Alliance, I won't say much. Coco's fans were more composed and didn't join Hansusu in mocking him. But from the looks of it, Hansusu knew that if he didn't join her in mocking now, he might not be able to keep his composure in the future. His expression revealed that this small mine was buried and would definitely explode in the future. It was a pity that her calculations were wrong. Coco was a professional player after all. How could his fans be noobs? One of the girls swept her a glance. You're a Spade fan, aren't you? Why did he come to our side? Also, sis, let me give you a reminder. Do you know why Spadesy shot an arrow into the bushes? It was to guard against an ambush. This is basic knowledge. How can you watch the game if you don't understand? He really didn't understand. How could someone treat their idol like this? Why do you look like an anti-fan? Hansusu's face darkened. She was thinking about how to smooth things over. But the girl wasn't a fan of Spadesy. She didn't pay much attention to Hansusu and focused on the competition. In fact, every normal person was watching the competition. Only an abnormal person would pay attention to other things and attempt to create some contradictions. After all, Hansusu's family was in the business world. She knew how to communicate with people and what kind of people to target. There were some people that she couldn't incite. However, there were some people who could use money or emotions to make others lose their judgment and attack others. This was the subtlety of how to conduct oneself. On the screen, Spadesy was almost in danger more than once. During the third round, Bojio had lost half of her HP. This was the most heart-wrenching part of Spade's fans. Chapter 641. However, there was one thing that not only the fans but also the opposing team members had overlooked. On the other hand, the feminine commentator's eyes lit up. I understand. Understand what? The audience didn't have time to listen to the following explanation. On the screen, Spadesy waved his arm, forming a huge silver rain formation around him. That person was standing in the middle of the rain formation. The two big moves of the opposing team were gone, all in the middle of the rain formation. To Spadesy, the rain was just rain. But to the opponent, it was a blade. Let's go. The opposing vice-captain was on the verge of death. He thought that he could at least let the assassin leave first. But how could the youngster let them go? Lin Feng. It was a low voice that could be heard by the audience through the earphones. Here, come on, little spade. Let's fight our revolutionary cooperation. That's right. It was cooperation. Lin Feng, who had finished clearing the jungles, was already near the middle lane. He took the opportunity to flank up. So what if he crossed the tower? He could just jump back after killing the opponent with low HP. Instantly. Only 2 words appeared on the screen. Oh. First kill. A first kill that no one had expected. The audience's uproar almost lifted the roof of the venue. Someone was swinging his baton, making loud banging noises. But it wasn't over yet. Until the second sound was heard. Double kill. Beautiful. The shoutcaster couldn't help but slap the table. Quick. 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 Let's take a look at the replay. The other shoutcaster was still brooding. What did you mean when you said you understood? Why did Spadesy choose to be a solo mid? Other than the fact that he needs to develop quickly, he can also hold back the opponent's main tank and main attacker. He can also buy time for Lin Feng to gain experience. Once the opponent's tank's big move is exhausted, he can form a rain spell. And it's obvious that he didn't do it randomly. It's because Lin Feng is nearby, so he can kill him in time. You mean? The other shoutcaster didn't even dare to think about that guess. The feminine shoutcaster covered his face, extremely bashful. This isn't his idea, it's my big spades. It's fine if he doesn't make a move, but once he makes a move, he has to make a double kill. After hearing the shoutcaster's words, in an instant, the viewership of the live stream reached its peak. That was not all. The 2 of them had even taken down the defense tower in the middle lane. They were so fast that they could feel the blood flowing in their veins heating up. This was undoubtedly a feast for the eyes. Coco's fans gave Han Susu a look, letting her experience it for herself. Han Susu's heart was ablaze. Her purpose in coming here was to embarrass that person. On one hand, she didn't expect Spade fans to be so protective of that person. On the other hand, he had been splashed, how could he win? The scene from earlier appeared on the big screen again. The camera pulled back, and the young man's calm face was reflected on it. He was handsome, fair, and a little too handsome. Feng Yi looked at this scene. In reality, no one knew where the youth had grown. Endure silently for the sake of the team. We aren't kind enough, we don't know how to deal with people, and we even have a fatal flaw in our character, but we can grow into what the important person needs. Chapter 642. Sorcerer players knew that as long as the foundation was good, the formation would be stronger in the later stages. Hero was a popular game because it was popular. It was also because it was a game that required you to understand a lot in order to play well. Teamwork was crucial. After taking down a defense tower, Bo Jiu and Lin Feng didn't rush forward. Instead, they crossed the wilderness and headed towards the bottom lane. It was too late for the enemy to retreat. Shui Yaoyao used a big stun move. Lin Feng went for the kill. Bo Jiu used another freeze. Shui Yaoyao took the chance to kill. KO. Handsome. Indeed handsome. Once the battle started, the rhythm of the battle quickened. The opposing attacker and tank revived and headed towards the bottom lane, along with the archer in the wilderness. The 3 of them encircled Supreme Alliance from the left and right to destroy Supreme Alliance. Since Spadesy was left with half his HP, this time they wouldn't waste their big move. They had to break Spadesy's rain spell. Bo Jiu didn't intend to fight them at all. She released a freeze skill and ran into the bushes, avoiding the assassin and returning to the tower. Shui Yaorao and Lin Feng would definitely lose HP, but it didn't matter because Bo Jiu was at the bottom of the tower. Since Bo Jiu was below the tower, with one healed, the other 2 would be back to full health. D***. We didn't catch him. Spadesy doesn't seem like a newbie when playing sorcerer. The opposing captain's voice deepened. From now on, we can't be careless. The information we received was wrong. Since we can't catch him, we'll go to the top lane to catch someone else. Lu, stay invisible and go to the top lane. Alright. The assassin named Lu was fast. No one could see his shadow as he advanced. The revived player guarded the middle lane. The other two were at the bottom lane. The other player was fighting with Coco on the top lane. The moment Bojio saw that the assassin was gone, her gaze sharpened. Coco, retreat. But it was too late. Usually the assassin's big move was the big move when he was close to you. Coco's HP wasn't full, and with that attack, his HP fell to a critical level. Ah. No. The fans couldn't help but scream. But even so, it couldn't change the ending. With a loud thud, Coco fell heavily to the ground. The other Supreme Alliance teammate wanted to turn back. However, there was still a mage in front of him. With such a powerful spell, he could only dodge and run. Some younger fans couldn't accept Coco's death. How could this be? How did my Coco die just like that? In the beginning, the regret that came from liking him was nothing. Han Susu seized the opportunity and sighed. Isn't it because the main damage output of the team is protecting Spade Z at the bottom lane? Sigh, this kind of competition is really disappointing. This sentence successfully made some of Coco's fans hate Spade Z. Why didn't you save my Coco? What's the meaning of using all the attack power to protect Spade Z? Are you just going to watch your teammate die? At the same time, doubts were raised. Coco switched on his mic. I'm sorry, Vice Captain. I was careless. You told me to pay attention to the assassin and told me to retreat. I was too late. Chapter 643. After all, it wasn't a problem between teammates. How could he not die in a game? Unless he was as perverted as Almighty Qin. Coco didn't think much of it. After reviving, he set off in high spirits. However, Han Susu didn't give up, adding, how cold. Coco apologized to him, but why did he say that? He seems rather nice to Shui Yaoyao. The new member is protecting the new member. The fans started to resent Coco's death. A fat woman isn't as important as our Coco. I don't know what Spadesy is thinking. Maybe there's something going on between them. Spadesy better correct his attitude. Otherwise, we won't do it if we lose the competition. Some fans were curious. Their idol had already explained the situation clearly. Why would he continue to listen to others' instigation and misinterpret their meaning? Every commander in a game knew that on the battlefield, it was important to be concise and have more plans. In reality, the more they played, the more Bojio understood the burden the Almighty had as a captain. She only played in the wilderness and rarely cooperated with anyone. When playing in the wilderness, she just had to think of her own strategy. There wasn't a need to think so much. Even when she had commanded before, she had used attacking characters. This team control was a true test of the team's cohesiveness. Especially when everyone was in the team. Tank, go forward. Yao Yao and Coco, run a little, one behind me, the other on the left to watch the ambush. Lin Feng, once we start, go invisible and attack the sorcerer at the back. Alright. During a team battle, it was important to attack first, and then attack. Killing the back was a common practice for assassins, but it depended on technique as well. But this was the camp that stood out. Coco's fans only looked at the surface. What I want to say is it interesting to have everyone surround him. Han Susu added immediately, he's just a vice captain. If he's so capable, he can fight at the front. What's the point of being stuck in the middle? Is Spadesy afraid of death? He wants his teammates to charge forward. This was a skillful way of saying it because if one Supreme Alliance member died, Han Susu could say that he died in Spadesy's place. The team members wearing headphones couldn't hear a single word of what was said on the field. On the screen, the young man's gaze was calm and composed. His hands were already in position on the keyboard. With a single fight, he crouched down on the opponent's archer. With Coco's support, the opponent lost half of his HP and was stunned on the spot. Of course, in a team battle, they wouldn't die so easily. The enemy was definitely going to counterattack. However, the opponent's tank realized that he was in trouble after crouching down with a big move. It was indeed terrible. Because at this moment, Spadesy took a step forward and froze the shooter. At the same time, the rain came. There were a total of 3 people in the formation, an archer, a support, and a tank. This pitter-patter rain could cause everyone in the center of the magic circle to lose HP and slow down. Sadly, The enemy didn't have any more big moves to break her formation. The tank had used his big move, and the archer couldn't use it in time. Only the opponent's sorcerer could interrupt Spadez's big move. The sorcerer used his big move, sweeping across like a fireball. It was a pity Supreme Alliance still had a tank. He moved forward firmly, buying time for his teammates and allowing Lin Feng to appear and kill them. The opponent's sorcerer lost half his HP. Moreover, a sorcerer without his big move was most afraid of an assassin's close combat. Chapter 644. Team Wipe. When these two words appeared, the live audience was practically boiling with excitement. Without any obstacles, Supreme Alliance was like a whirlwind of offense. Everyone was in the middle lane. It was easy for 5 people to destroy the defense tower, even though Supreme Alliance's tank was almost out of HP. But don't forget, Bojo had healing abilities. The effect of heal was to restore the HP of the player and the party members around them. All 5 of them were healing at the same time, and it would take time for the other party to resurrect. This amount of time was enough for Supreme Alliance to take down the opponent's city. When the pieces of the city fell, the sky was filled with silver sparks, showing Supreme Alliance's absolute victory. Bojo was the first to remove her earpiece, her silver hair fluttering. It was such a cool action that was captured by the camera. Another burst of uncontrollable screams rang out. Even the shoutcaster was excited. Replay. Field control. Please give me a replay. It was a beautiful team battle, wasn't it? Yes, the sorcerer's calculations are good. I never expected Spadez to be so good as a sorcerer. With a rain spell, the opponent couldn't retaliate at all. So you think Spadez is the MVP of this match? Definitely. There's no doubt that such an outstanding team control player will be the MVP. This is the first time I agree with your point of view. Alright, friends in the audience, the replay is here. Let's watch the most exciting scene in slow motion. It was common knowledge in team battles to use the tank to attack the front and the assassin to kill the back. However, when everyone looked again, they would notice Spadez's movement. He moved slightly to the left, stopped the freeze, and then released his rain spell. This move was the key to winning the team battle, and it had to be said that his control was beautiful. This kind of playstyle is enough for him to compete with those who play sorcerer all year round. Spadez is definitely worthy of being the vice-captain of Supreme Alliance. There was nothing more convincing and exciting than a post-match analysis. When the youngster took off his headphones, Lin Feng pounced forward, wrapping his arms around her neck. He rammed his fist into her silver hair. You're good, you're handsome. Especially when you cooperate with me, you're even more handsome. Coco also pressed forward with the brightest smile on his face. Vice-captain, we won. It wasn't just the players in the arena. Even Yun Hu and Yin Wuyao joined in. The youngster was at the bottom, her forehead pressed against the computer, one hand protecting the cat. Hey, that's enough my hairstyle. Don't worry, Your Highness Jiao, you're still handsome. Shui Yaoyao smiled. Even though they weren't there, the audience could feel the different feelings between Supreme Alliance and the Alliance. Coco's fans, who were originally dissatisfied, couldn't say anything after seeing this scene. Since their Coco liked Spadez so much, it wouldn't be good for them to say anything. It was a scene of jubilation. This was not what Han Susu wanted to see. She stood there with her hands clenched and her eyes darkened. Chapter 645. That tone and the surrounding gazes caused Han Susu, who had never been mocked before, to turn red and green. After all, it was a slap to her face. Han Susu couldn't take it anymore, grabbing her bag and fleeing the scene. The cheers of victory continued. The MVP of the competition, the youngster, carried a white cat, his handsome side profile perfectly captured on the screen. There was a cracking sound. Through the computer. Wu Zhen threw the mouse in her hand, her eyes cold to the extreme. It wasn't because of Supreme Alliance's victory. It was because of the cat in the youngster's arms. Wu Zhen had never expected to see Princess here. Others might not know who the white cat belonged to, but Wu Zhen was clear. That person had never allowed anyone near his cat, not even she had hugged Princess. But now, Princess was in the hands of that useless young Master Fu. Wu Zhen clenched her fists tighter and tighter, her expression darkening. Until there was a knock on the door. Wu Zhen switched off the screen, standing up. She was still at work, wearing her uniform. Director Huang came, holding some documents in his hands. Li Mengran is implicated in the forum. It's dangerous. We have to investigate the culprit as soon as possible. Li Mengran is the only one who has direct contact with the forum. Go ask her about the tone of the replies and if there were any leaks. Write it down and pass it to me. In the past, before Wu Zhen was transferred over, Director Huang would always address her as Miss Wu. But it was different now. Wu Zhen was a member of the crime squad. Her work couldn't be sloppy. But it was obvious that Wu Zhen wasn't interested in such cases. She took the documents, asking, "Aren't you going to investigate Zi's case? Brother Mo, where did he go? Did he go to investigate? If he can't handle it, I can help him. Don't bother about what he does, just do your job well." Director Huang was like a weasel, keeping his mouth shut. He wouldn't divulge anything if he could. Wu Zhen felt a wave of annoyance when she heard his words. Wasn't he able to return to the crime squad because of her persuasion? But now this Director Huang. Wait a minute, Li Mengran. Wasn't she the one who said she was gay? Okay, I'll drive over now and ask all the questions I need to ask. Wu Zhen laughed, but her gaze was sinister. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Li Mengran, who was resting at home, had just finished watching the youngster's live stream. If one thing can change a family, he had indeed done it. Mother Li's views were different from before. In the past, as long as Li Mengran wasn't doing her exercises, she would frown, regardless of the time. As long as he had some free time, he would let Li Mengran attend classes. Now she didn't care what the child did. However, there was one thing that Mother Li noticed, and that was that her daughter seemed to really like that young man. Every time before she did the exercises, her daughter would look at her phone. The people on the school's intranet had posted another photo of the young man. After reading it, his daughter continued to write questions with a smile on her face. Mother Li had also expressed that as long as she found a partner, she would agree. Chapter 646. In that instant, Mother Li's heart ached. Our Mengran is great too. I know, but it's not the type His Highness Jiao likes. Li Mengran smiled faintly. I'll continue to like him silently, not burdening him. If I'm outstanding enough in the future, I'll confess to him. Whether he accepts or rejects me, I'll be happy. Mom, do you know as long as you like him, you'll be happy? How could Mother Li not know that? She had witnessed the changes in her daughter. Such a daughter really made her feel proud as a mother. At the same time, she reflected on herself. The best way to be a parent was to grow up with their child. Hence, when Wu Zhen, who was dressed in a police uniform, came knocking on their door, they were somewhat surprised. Wu Zhen still had a smile on her face, her words appropriate. Auntie, don't worry, it's just Mengran. I'm here to understand the situation and make a statement. The police won't reveal Mengran's identity. In reality, Mother Li was no longer the same as before. As long as she could protect her daughter, she didn't care if others found out. Since she was from the police, she naturally wouldn't reject her. Wu Zhen was smart. She didn't start off with official business. Instead, she moved on to other topics such as Mengran's current situation, her mood and studies. Anyone would be willing to listen to such words. After setting the foundation, Wu Zhen revealed her true motive. Mengran, are you willing to talk about your boyfriend? His Highness Jiao. Li Mengran hadn't expected her to ask about the youngster. Her first reaction was, that has nothing to do with him. Wu Zhen arched a brow. That. What is it? Li Mengran shook her head. Nothing. Wu Zhen was a police officer. She could immediately tell that Li Mengran was trying to hide something. She placed her pen down. Mengran, you should understand that it's better to make things clear so that we can solve the problem. Actually, there's something I've always wanted to ask. Since he's your boyfriend, why are you calling him His Highness Jiao? That doesn't seem normal. Li Mengran remained silent. Wu Zhen continued. Also, he seemed to have known about you in advance. As your boyfriend, didn't he take any precautions? When we caught the teacher, he kept mumbling that it must be the little brat who harmed him, and that he should have paid more attention. Who was the little brat referring to? Your boyfriend? This matter really has nothing to do with Highness Geo. Li Mingran panicked. Don't make things difficult for His Highness Geo. Back then, His Highness Geo only became my boyfriend because he thought that at least those beasts would have some reservations. Wu Zhen looked at Li Mingran, her eyes narrowing. Is that true? It really is. Li Mingran shifted her gaze to the left. In order to catch up to that person, Wu Zhen had specially learned how to use micro-expressions during interrogations. Li Mingran was obviously hiding something, because her gaze to the upper left had already betrayed her. However, Wu Zhen knew that it was useless to continue asking. It was obvious that Li Mingran was very protective of the gay. It was better not to ask anymore, lest this person figured out her intentions. But there was one thing that Wu Zhen was almost certain of. Chapter 647. Moreover, it was related to this incident. After asking about the forum, Wu Zhen's mind wasn't on it. Once she was out of the Li family's house, she called Han Susu. The moment Han Susu picked up the call, she started complaining to Wu Zhen. Why are there so many people protecting such a gay? I feel disgusted just looking at him. I don't like him either. Wu Zhen lowered her voice. But don't worry, he'll be out of luck soon. Han Susu's eyes lit up. Sister Wu, did you think of a good idea? It's related to my work. It's not convenient for me to tell you now. Are there any problems on your side? Wu Zhen asked as she opened the car door. Han Susu chuckled lightly. What problems can there be? Some of his Spade Z fans still like me since I supported him from the start. He doesn't know how to be grateful, he'll regret it one day. Some people are indeed destroyed by arrogance. Wu Zhen flipped through the information in her hands. Han Susu was still furious. It's fine, we can make a fuss on the official Weibo. Anyway, the Spade Z fans I interacted with are feeling aggrieved. It's better to be careful, don't let anyone find out, Wu Zhen instructed. Han Susu said. Don't worry, there are still my friends there. They are all on my side. In that case, I'll tell you what I have on my side. If possible, I might be able to capture the gay and keep him there for a few days. Wu Zhen smiled. Han Susu was delighted. If that's the case, that would be great. That way, everyone would be able to see what kind of person Spadesy was. But at this moment, Supreme Alliance's second match was about to begin. Bojo didn't have time to think about anything else. Once again, she deployed the formation and commanded the battle calmly in the face of danger. That day, all the Spade Z fans could only see the youngster, wearing a black headset, giving out simple orders, perfect maneuvering and positioning, playing at the highest level of a sorcerer. After the second match, it was already 6 p.m. There was an interview with an esports star. Bojo was the one Supreme Alliance had chosen. Without a choice, the youngster unzipped her uniform and pointed to her teammates. Wait for me to come back before we go for skewers. Unfortunately, no one listened to Gio in this regard. Hearing that they were going to eat, Supreme Alliance revealed their true nature. They only had meat in their eyes and didn't care about their little vice-captain. Lin Feng said straightforwardly, "Don't worry, we'll wait for you at the skewers." In other words, they would definitely go first. So when the microphone was passed to the youth, the young man was still thinking about crispy chicken bones, lamb skewers, fish tofu, baked beans, and so on. In the end, when the beautiful host asked, "Who is your favorite esports player?" the youngster said decisively, "Let's eat skewers." Excuse me? Was there any team with a player named Baokebab in an esports competition? Not only the beautiful host, but even the cameraman was dumbfounded. Cough. Fengyi coughed heavily. The young man, who was holding the cat in one hand, came back from his thoughts and smiled faintly. Is there a problem? You're the one with the problem now. Chapter 648. Was that a person's name? Fox Feng glanced at her. The beautiful host asked again. Do you have any esports players you admire? Of course. Boju smiled. Chinemo, I admire not only his looks but also his playing style. The beautiful host laughed. Aren't you just expressing your admiration for Almighty Chin? Bojo smiled but didn't reply. The beautiful host continued to ask, throughout the match today, everyone noticed that you played a character that you don't usually play, but it was surprisingly perfect. I think everyone is very curious about when you became a mage. After all, you've always played a more aggressive character before. The day before yesterday. The two words youngster. The beautiful host paused. Can I trouble you to repeat? When did you train? The day before yesterday, the youngster replied, not forgetting to suppress Princess in his arms. The beautiful host was slightly dazed. You managed to train a character so well in 2 days? Mage. Bojo didn't mention that she had only played for 3 hours and managed to master it after 5 rounds. The beautiful host sighed. As expected of the FC King of Zone C. I believe the fans are just like me, they will look forward to your competition in the future. That was indeed the case. It was a national competition. Almost all the girls who liked to play games were infatuated with the youngster. Their peripheral products were sold out. Some dealers even scratched their heads. I've never seen a gamer more popular than a celebrity. In one night, almost the entire Jiang city saw the interview with the youngster. In the end, the silver-haired youngster stuffed one hand into his trouser pocket, the other carelessly hugging the white cat gently. He looked handsome as he looked into the camera, making people's hearts race. But under all the glamour, there was bound to be something that others didn't know. 11 p.m. The youngster finally had a proper meal. Before he finished, he fell asleep on the dining table in the living room. The princess had jumped on the table and sniffed around, trying to claw at the stupid human who was always threatening her. But when he saw the youngster's sleeping profile, he retracted his claws and started to walk proudly. On account of the fact that you fed me delicious food, this king will forgive you. The princess stomped for a while, and when she was done, she wrapped herself up into a fluffy round ball and leaned against the side of the young man's face. A man and a cat, just enough to keep each other warm. At this moment, on the other side of the earth, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, the sunlight was very gentle. It passed through the white curtains and shone on that handsome and abstinent face. Chin, do you feel anything here? The doctor spoke in authentic English. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. His fingers pressed on the man's wrist, and his eyes observed the patient's reaction. A very pleasant word. No. I understand. The doctor wrote a few sentences in English on his notebook, then gave some instructions before leaving with his things. Chinemo was the only one left in the ward. Dressed in a pure white hospital gown, he looked like he had walked out of a comic, a white devil, a typical military commander. Young master, do you want to take a look at the situation? Adjutant Zhang was standing beside him. He knew very well what the young master was concerned about. Unexpectedly, Chinemo rejected her. No need, I can't control myself. Chapter 649. It was nighttime. Jiang City's mansion. Feng Shang watched as his brother placed his phone down, stuttering. Why was it Captain Qin? No. Feng Yi's eyes dimmed. It's not normal for someone to cause trouble in the arena today. I'll get someone to investigate. Feng Shang grunted heavily. Why you have to investigate? Bully my idol. No, don't let me know what they are called in-game. I know, I'll go and bully them every day. These people don't play games. Feng Yi glanced at his bunny brother. More and more people will like you in the future. Some might not like you because of your gaming skills, but because of your faces. Some might even like you because your existence can give them a topic to talk about. There are many such things, you have to get used to it. Feng Shang clenched his fists. And not used to it. Feng Yi laughed like a fox. That's true, you don't have to get used to it. You just have to play the game well, I'll handle the rest. He wasn't sure what his motive was. But it was obvious that there were a few people who were incited to the point where they couldn't tell right from wrong. Or perhaps after today's incident, they vaguely understood what was going on. But they still chose to continue being used by others, and they would still feel sympathetic towards each other. They felt wronged after hurting others. There were many of such people in real life. Usually it wouldn't change. Feng Yi didn't care about that. He just had to find the mastermind. Even as a manager, he couldn't stand to watch being splashed with coke. But after the match, the youngster said in a low voice while wearing a mask, "Don't tell Brother Mo about what happened today." Feng Yi knew very well what all this forbearance was for. For that person to focus on his hand injury, for Supreme Alliance's victory, for his teammates. If it wasn't for these most important things, the youngster would probably have dealt with it in a different way. Sometimes, when Feng Yi looked at the youngster, it was as though he was looking at the past Qin Mo. That person had walked step by step in the same manner. Doubt, ridicule, incitement, attacks, all of them had ulterior motives. It was because of these experiences that the most valuable esports player was born. Feng Yi lowered his lids, picking up another call. "Yes, I want to know who brought the fan in. There should be records." These things were not easy to investigate. Because there were too many people entering the venue. It would take a lot of time and energy to find out the truth. At this moment, it was up to the true Spade fans to unite. Feng Yi decided to meet Sister Turtle. Feng Yi considered himself so handsome that he had no friends. However, when he sat down in front of the woman, he realized that the woman in front of him did not seem to have weakened in the slightest. Moreover, that face was very beautiful. For the first time, Feng Yi felt that he didn't need to speak so clearly when talking to someone. Because as soon as he said it, the other party could almost understand everything. "President Feng, don't worry. We'll use the best way to protect our young man. We'll fully cooperate with the authorities." Feng Yi paused. "I've prepared a lot of questions." Moreover, such a strict selection method was bound to attract some disgust. Chapter 650. Ever since that day, all the Spade fans seemed to have an indescribable tacit understanding, cooperating with the officials. Even those who weren't qualified to go to the stadium would cheer for Spadesy online, because they believed that protection is mutual. Moreover, they did not want to see a second Coke splash incident. So when you really like a person, you will really feel sorry for what happened to him. The next day, when Bo Jiu found out about the incident, she hugged the white cat and recorded a message on her official Weibo. "Come, princess, say good morning to everyone." Meow. "You stupid human, if you have the guts, let me go and fight one-on-one." The young man's unique voice, coupled with the bursts of meowing, made people feel that he was full of life. Oh, my big Spade is even more handsome now. I'm going to record this and use it to wake myself up every day. It's so warm. What should I do? Am I the only one who feels like I'm about to explode from the princess's voice? Actually, I don't care about that. What I care about is why my big Spade is suddenly carrying a cat to the competition. And the cat is always around. This is a good question. Qin Fan can't help but want to say something. That should be our Almighty's cat. Cover your face. My Almighty has even let little Spade take care of his cat. I'm really not thinking about it. I just want to ask, do you even have the keys to the Qin family? When she saw the last message, she glanced towards her table instinctively. There was indeed a key on it. But it wasn't from the Qin family, it was from the Almighty's place where he lived. There was a lot of cat food there. The Almighty had said that if it wasn't enough, she could feed him. I feel like I've been stuffed with another mouthful of dog food. The gay is trying to make his presence felt again. I really don't understand why some idiots like him. Spadesy, it's time for you to face your own problems. Don't you think about why you were splashed? There were even some of your fans. Do you think a few fans aren't important? I'm here purely because I can't stand the current entry system. It's so strict. How narcissistic. Do you think anyone would want to see you? From the looks of it, the other party wasn't going to be done yet. Feng Yi was also looking at the official Weibo. He narrowed his eyes and sped up the search process. Bo Jiu was already dressed in Supreme Alliance's uniform. Honor always goes hand in hand with vilification. What we want is to be worthy of the people we need to be worthy of. For 3 whole days, Supreme Alliance was like a dark horse that charged out of a tight encirclement, killing enemies along the way and reaping great rewards. Complete victory. The 4th day. Team battle. Supreme Alliance won't win so easily this time. The shoutcaster looked at the list, giving his analysis. Another commentator asked, "What do you mean?" Chapter 651. That was indeed the case. Everyone knew that the National League would become more and more difficult as the competition progressed, because the opponents they encountered would constantly become stronger. Chen Yiguang had been using a sorcerer since the very beginning. Many people couldn't take down Galaxy because of his ace sorcerer. It was said that his positioning, skills, and control over time were extremely sensitive. Apologies. Lin Feng came down from the 2v2, his fingers clenched tightly. Galaxy was indeed strong. So strong that he couldn't keep up. I should be the one apologizing. Coco stood there, his head hanging low. If I hadn't died so quickly, I wouldn't have lost. His captain had told him a long time ago that he needed to improve. But before he could improve to a certain level, the National League had started. Coco started to seriously consider if he should do fewer live streams in the future, so that he could have more time to train his hand speed. But regardless of the reason, it couldn't be used as an excuse for his poor performance. With that, Bojio stood up, smiling faintly as she tugged at the black wrist guard on her right hand. She tilted her head and smiled. "It's fine, we'll help you win it back." She was referring to us. She wasn't referring to herself. The five of them stood in a line, giving off an indescribable sense of handsomeness when they walked onto the stage. It was an aura that wouldn't get tired of even after watching it many times. The shoutcasters were still shaking their heads, not having high hopes for the match. Spadesy's sorcerer won't be able to control Chen Yiguang. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. A sound effect came from the screen. Spadesy assassin. In that instant, the shoutcasters were confused. Wait a minute, shouldn't Spadesy be a sorcerer? What was going on with the assassin? A commotion broke out over at Galaxy. It seemed like the situation was out of their expectations. True Spade fans found it normal. My big Spade is an assassin, it's perfect for him. The shoutcasters were in a daze. What's wrong? Just that one sentence was enough to send a shock through everyone. That's right. How could they forget that the newcomer king of Zone C was best at using assassins? Even now, the video of Spadesy using assassins to kill 5 players was still being spread like wildfire. That was why he had no intention of playing as a mage in the first place. The youngster did not look around. Instead, he gestured to his teammates and put on the headphones with his right hand. The shoutcaster only snapped out of his daze when he heard the sound of entering the game. Anyone who used the assassin class would know that they should first kill monsters to level up, then kill people. Furthermore, using an assassin to kill someone required a certain level of skill. Chen Yiguang knew Spadesy wasn't easy to deal with. He controlled the character with his fingers, his voice low. "Be careful of Spadesy's ambush." "Don't worry, Captain. We'll only defend and not attack. We'll wait for you to take control later." However, that was what he said, but when it came to the real fight, you can't just defend and not attack. One of the members of the space troopers defended the tower very well. He was facing 2 enemies at once, but neither of them attacked him. His HP was running low, so he wanted to return to the city while he was safe under the tower. But that person forgot one thing. Chapter 652. On the screen, everyone could clearly see the youngster's beautiful finger technique. It was so fast that they couldn't even see it clearly. The assassin with the name Spadesy had already rushed under the opponent's tower. With a big move, he killed someone and then jumped over the wall. The music started playing. Kill. A perfect tower kill. A stunning first kill. Instantly, the crowd was in an uproar. The player who had returned to the city hadn't expected Spadesy to suddenly appear. How insane was his hand speed to reach such a level? But that wasn't the end. The figure didn't return to the city. Instead, after jumping out, he went straight for the assassin in the jungle. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Along with the exciting music, 2 huge words appeared on the screen. Double kill. Amazing. When the commentator said these 2 words, he slammed the table. His excitement was no less than that of the live audience. Everyone was requesting for the replay to be slowed down. Because when Spadesy killed the first player, his speed was too fast. Even the full-view audience couldn't figure out when the figure had started to sweep past the jungle and head for the tower. The scene made everyone's blood boil. Spadesy playing as an assassin really makes people want to become his fan. These were the shoutcaster's words. It wasn't because of anything else but the youngster's technique and maneuvers. There wasn't a single pause when he killed someone. There was only one word that could describe it. It was awesome. At this moment, Chen Yiguang started to feel more confident. He knew clearly that they wouldn't be able to win this team battle. As soon as the match started, Spadesy had already completed the first kill. It was obvious that the opponent didn't intend to take down the tower this time, choosing to sweep the entire way. Chen Yiguang wasn't sure if it was a coincidence or the youngster's plan. If it was the latter, Spadesy was terrifying. For a sorcerer, starting a battle in the jungle was his weakness. His usual calculations had to be readjusted. There were too many bushes in the jungle. It was easy to control one person, but difficult to control many. Chen Yiguang had already used his big move twice. Supreme Alliance did have casualties, but if the opponent died, they would lose 4 on their side. When he ran from the jungle to the tower, he didn't dare to lose too much HP, because it was very likely that Spadesy would cross the tower and kill him. He had never experienced such a feeling before. The current Supreme Alliance, no, it should be Spadesy, was so strong that he couldn't handle him. Without Qin Mo, they would be able to win the match. But now, Chen Yiguang realized something. After Qin Mo left, Spadesy came. The youngster with the title of Rookie King wasn't any worse than Qin Mo. Just thinking about it, Chen Yiguang's fingers were trembling. Without Qin Mo around, Supreme Alliance was already so powerful. If Qin Mo came back, how strong would Supreme Alliance be? With such a question, StarCraft lost the match. Just as the shoutcaster had said, Spade Qin's plan wasn't to attack the city, but to kill everyone. Supreme Alliance won. She won so much that everyone wanted to shout, "Beautiful." On the other hand, the atmosphere in the Interstellar Alliance was a little gloomy. In order to prepare for the National League, every team had exhausted all of their efforts. No one wanted to lose. Everyone hoped that they could fight one more round. Even if it was just one more battle, it would be fine. Chapter 653. Lin Feng could understand what kind of feeling that was. Back when Supreme Alliance hadn't even made it through the regional competition, he had felt the same way. Hence, when the galactic members walked over, they removed their headphones. Some of them were tearing up. It was obvious how much they were suppressing. Chen Yiguang was the calmest among them. He reached out to Bojio. "I hope I can meet you again in the coming year. By then, the galactic won't be as weak as before." "I believe you." The youngster smiled. "The galactic members are full of potential, especially Captain Qin. You are too hard to kill. If it wasn't for the revival of your teammates and the fact that I have so many people on my side, I wouldn't have been able to kill you alone. Your control is too strong." Chen Yiguang thought that he really shouldn't look at boring gossip. Spadesy was a character that all esports players had to take seriously. It had nothing to do with how unorthodox he was, because his skills were there for all to see. After the handshake, the two teams were supposed to return to their respective resting areas. But at this moment, Chen Yiguang wasn't satisfied. He paused and turned to the youngster. "I have a question that I would like to know the answer to. Was it a coincidence that you started the battle in the wilderness or—" "Of course it was planned." Bojio glanced over, her side profile ravishing. "The battle in the wilderness weakens the sorcerer's control to a certain extent, making it easier for the assassin to move. Captain Chen is such a strong opponent, it's only natural that we try our best to restrain him." With that, Chen Yiguang's remaining indignation vanished. Because this young man was truly too strong. He was so strong that even if he lost to him, he wouldn't feel depressed. Instead, he wanted to have another exchange of blows. Chen Yiguang walked over to the member who was wiping his tears, patting his shoulders. "We'll try again next year. Trust me, the Galactic will be stronger next year. Image." A team with the same beliefs. They would definitely become stronger. The youngster retracted her gaze from Chen Yiguang. The moment she lowered her head, she saw Princess looking at her with narrowed eyes. Bojiu arched a brow, suppressing him with her hands. Princess exploded into a ball. You rascal, when Master comes back, I'll definitely get him to replace you. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you look good. If you give me another candy, I can consider tolerating you. Without a doubt, the MVP of this match was Bojiu. 9 kills, 0 deaths, and 5 assists. In a situation where each member of the opposing team could only die 3 times. This kind of battle record was enough to make anyone's face bleed. Someone guessed, Spadesy must have switched back to his best assassin for the next match. However, the next day, the youngster chose to be a long-range shooter during the team battle. Marksman? Not a mage, not an assassin, but an archer? What kind of joke was this? However, it turned out that he wasn't joking. Even though he was playing as an archer, the young man still won the MVP of that match. Just like that, Bojiu played through all 3 characters. Finally, someone couldn't help but ask, Spadesy, don't tell us that you can play any character. The young man hugged the cat, his hands in his trouser pockets, and with a lollipop in his mouth he raised his eyebrows slightly and said, I am. After listening to the interview, the Professional Alliance's chat group exploded. One had to know that the group consisted of all the gods in the esports circle, and they wouldn't easily explode. But today was different. Holy sh*t, what's going on? Another all-rounder? Chinmo's nemesis, come out, let's have a good chat. Why is your little spade so all-rounder? Chapter 654. The Professional Alliance was messing around in the WeChat group. After all, after 7 consecutive days of competition, everyone wanted to relax. But what they didn't expect was, Chinmo really came out. Just one word, calm and composed. This made the members of the various battle teams rub their eyes hard. Chen Yiguang asked, am I seeing things? Is Chinmo here? No, Yiguang, you aren't seeing things. A certain someone is really here. It was the top assassin in the country, Lin Chentao. Of course, the members of Xiangnan were also in the group, all of them top-notch players. Is Spadesy really an all-rounder? Chen Yiguang asked. Lin Chentao replied. I remember he has always been an assassin since his hand speed is the most suitable. Is Spadesy in the group? Xiangnan's vice-captain Zhao Sampang was a chatterbox. Ask him. Someone glanced at the sky. How is that possible? Have you forgotten how old the people in the group are? He's just a high school student. Hey, I'm not old. Chen Yiguang replied. I'm only 20, it's the prime of a man's life. Lin Chentao smirked. I'm 18, I'm forever 18. North of Yin Mountain. Uncle Yin, get Chinmo's nemesis to drag his little spade in. Zhao Sampang was really fat, and his greatest wish was to destroy Chinmo. Chinmo's deep eyes stared at the chat box in the group. He sat on the bed, his slender fingers moving, pulling the poker profile picture into the chat. Bojiu hadn't seen the person who had invited her, hence, she had left the group. After that, Bojiu realized who had sent it. She opened the chat window. Chinmo arched a brow, pulling her for the second time. This time, she wasn't going to leave. But she wasn't going to enter. The moment she entered, she realized the usernames in the group were extremely familiar. They were all people she would be facing in the future, and they were all godly players. Back when Feng Yi had been explaining, she had seen their information many times. If those fangirls knew that these esports gods were in the same WeChat group, they would probably go crazy. Zhao Sampang. Hi little spade, let me introduce myself. I'm the face of this group, handsome Zhao. Lin Chentao. Add 2 words in front of looks, negative number. Zhao Sampang. Lin, I'm angry. Let's fight. Come on, let's 2v1. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Zhao Sampang replied. You're just bullying with numbers. Look at little spade, it's always a 1v2. We're both assassins, but why is there such a huge difference? Come little spade, newbie, report your measurements and sexual orientation. Bojo cleverly avoided these two questions and typed with a smile. Handsome brother Zhao gave himself that title? 66666. Self-sealing is the main point, no explanation needed. Spectating forcefully. The others also came. In an instant, many people appeared. Chen Yiguang said, "So you guys are here." Little brother Yiguang, big sister will tell you, big sister cut my nails especially for you, and dyed them rose red. The next time I kill you, my attack power will increase by a notch. Be careful, my baby. The person who spoke was Xiangnan sorcerer Luo Luojiang. She was indeed beautiful, but her fighting style was savage and she specifically targeted Chen Yiguang. Chapter 655. Zhao Sampeng didn't care about the others and sent a serious emoji. I didn't expect that I would be so famous. You've heard of Little Spade before you joined the group, right? Are you treating me as the greatest opponent in your life the moment you see me? One of Qin Mo's hands hung down, the other holding the business tablet. He was just about to type something. A line of words appeared on the screen. Spadesy. I already have my biggest rival, my captain. Zhao Sampeng. You have good foresight. You have the same goal as me. Spadesy. Xiangnan's Captain Xiao. Leave the group and train. Zhao Sampeng, who was caught by his boss, immediately pretended to go offline. Goodbye, Little Spade from Qin Mo's family. Let's discuss how to defeat him in the future. Bojo nodded. Little Spade from Qin Mo's family. Bojo didn't reply. Instead, she took a screenshot and sent it to Qin Mo. This isn't the Xiangnan I imagined. Qin Mo glanced at the photo, his voice faint. Most of the people in Xiangnan are still normal. There has to be an exception. In other words, Zhao Sampeng wasn't normal. The Almighty's venomous tongue was as sharp as ever. Bojo tapped open the long message on WeChat. After listening to the pleasant male voice, she pondered for a moment before sending a video chat over. Qin Mo, who was wearing a hospital gown, raised his eyebrows and agreed. A fat cat playing happily with a ball of yarn suddenly appeared on the screen. Then the handsome face of the young man appeared. The princess seems to be very interested in things like balls of string. It is indeed the nature of cats. The chubby white cat seemed to have heard someone calling its name. It jumped over and saw its owner's face appear on the young man's phone. It immediately stretched out its neck and called out, "Master, it's this fellow who uses me as a hand warmer every day. But don't worry, this fellow can't do anything to me for the time being, let alone shave my fur. I'm still the world's most handsome meow." Bojo pressed down on the cat's paw to stop it from touching the phone. On the other end of the video call, Qin Mo looked at the man and the cat and said slowly, "It seems like you guys are getting along well." Bojo and Princess tilted their heads at the same time. Not bad. If it was a small fight every day and a big fight every 3 days, it would be a good way to get along. In that case, they could indeed be considered pretty good. Is the Almighty sure he's not being sarcastic? Bojo glanced at the handsome man on the screen. Even though he was wearing a hospital gown, he was still mesmerizingly handsome. It seemed like the Almighty wanted to be taken home and raised. He decided to find a place to prop up his phone so that he could see it more clearly. What he didn't know was that when he moved, the phone's camera moved down and just happened to shine on the half of his calf that was exposed. Qin Mo's fingers paused, and his deep eyes darkened. He did not remind the young man to raise the camera. Instead, he just watched without shifting his gaze. Because even if he closed his eyes, that scene would still remain in his mind. White, smooth, and clean to the point that there was only fluff left. Very few boys would be like this. But it wasn't like there weren't any. Moreover, that guy was already late in puberty. He wasn't very tall either. Even that place was probably very clean. You still want to compare size with me? Qin Mo lifted the corner of his lips. He would give the youngster a chance to compete with him. Chapter 656. Alright, that's a good image. Bojo moved the chair, her legs apart as she watched the man in the hospital gown. Brother Mo, you are really handsome. Qin Mo wanted to say something. But just then a notification came from the Alliance chat. Lin Chuntao. F***CK. I just went to the Japanese server, and they're causing a ruckus. Who wants to join me? Wooly Tao Tao, you're being naughty again. Why aren't you training properly? Luo Luojiang sent a nail-blowing emoji. Lin Chuntao. The people on the Japanese server were just saying on the World Channel that all Chinese girls who play online games are either dinosaurs or fat chicks. Oh. Luo Luojiang had been smiling a second ago, but the next she sent a message. Tell me where he is, I'm going to destroy him. Lin Chuntao. Join the Japanese server, let's go together, their team is still around. Japanese server? You guys are playing together again. Count me in. Lin Feng popped up. Lin Chuntao sent a shoulder-slapping emoji. Look at me. I'm an assassin and so are you. We aren't compatible, you're yin who can go. Alright, wait, I'll bring Dehu over. Even if he couldn't go personally, he could watch from the side. We have the support, we're lacking a tank. Where's the tank? Hurry! Luo Luojiang shouted. This team is indeed arrogant, their results aren't bad, they haven't lost yet. Chen Yiguang. The tank isn't around, it's game over. His name is Qin Mo, Luo Luojiang replied. He can be a tank too. Lin Chuntao. Don't you have his WeChat? We've never chatted before. Besides, are you dumb? I confessed to him in the past, but he rejected me. Is it appropriate to speak to him alone? Luo Luojiang placed her hands on her hips. I have my pride. Lin Chuntao. That won't do. I can't find him. Little Spade probably knows how to use a tank too, Lin Feng said. Luo Luojiang replied immediately. If it's Little Spade, it doesn't matter how many times I get rejected. Leave the invitation to me. Lin Chuntao. You sound like you're taking advantage of the situation. Shut up, I'm going to invite my Little Spade. Luo Luojiang was in a good mood. However, there was one person whose mood couldn't be so beautiful. Qin Mo frowned as he looked at the chat history. My Little Spade? It seemed like he had really underestimated someone's ability to seduce. Luo Luojiang was a straightforward girl. Under normal circumstances, a girl who was good at gaming would be decisive in her actions. Little Spade, aren't you bored after a day of rest? We're opening the Black Japanese server, and we're lacking a tank. Can you play as a tank? Bojo didn't have time to look at the group chat. When she saw this sentence, she typed the sentence beautifully. I can play. Which server is it on the Japanese server? I'm going in. As expected, this youth was different from the others. Luo Luojiang glanced at the empty chat, the corners of her lips lifting. This was how gaming should be. Thus, after 2 or 3 sentences, a team that could not possibly be connected was formed. All 5 of them were in different teams. But they were close to the strongest team in the country. Every single one of them was a god in the eyes of the fangirls. If the fans were to find out, they would definitely go crazy. But the managers were different. They would definitely be scratching their heads if they found out. As if the National League wasn't stressful enough, they had to add a meal? But they had to consider the upcoming competition. Chapter 657. But as esports players, they didn't think that way. In any case, there was only one sentence. As long as I'm satisfied. After all, the other party was indeed arrogant. In reality, there would be some exclusivity in different servers. But this time, it was obvious that they were targeting China. China's esports has just started. Some Chinese players shouldn't embarrass themselves. Be careful not to get killed. Seeing this, the 5 of them immediately formed a team. The person on the other side was still laughing. Seems like there really are people who aren't afraid of death. Let's fulfill their wish. After he finished speaking, with a click, the door was pushed open. Someone walked in from outside. The slender figure seemed to have just woken up. He was still wearing home clothes, and his entire person exuded a kind of laziness and cleanliness. If it wasn't Hoshino, who else could it be? What's so funny? The person sitting beside the computer looked up. Vice Captain, come over and take a look. Someone actually dares to challenge us. Don't they know that our reserve team is strong? You're causing trouble in the Japanese server again. As Hoshino spoke, he picked up the magazine on the coffee table. Be careful not to kick a metal board. Some Chinese players aren't easy to deal with. I can't tell. The person was still laughing. One of them was killed many times by us just now. He was indignant and called for reinforcements. Even though he died because of his teammates, it's impossible for them to win against the Japanese's second main force with just a new batch of teammates. Vice Captain, I'm going to talk to you. The game is starting, it's time to torture. Whoosh. The music blared. Even though Hoshino was sitting on the sofa, he could hear the sounds of fighting. However, it didn't affect his reading of the magazine. There had been no traces of Z recently. Hoshino knew that she had erased all traces. However, it was fine as long as she was fine. Hoshino raised his hand, switching to another magazine. He propped his chin on one hand, sitting there. The person in front of the computer kept moving the mouse. Was it an illusion? Why did it feel like time was passing so slowly this time? But it didn't matter. Since the people over there liked to waste time, then he would slowly waste time with them. Are you here to catch me? The man looked at the screen and smirked. I'm not that easy to catch. As the archer with low HP ran into the defense tower, Lin Chintao muttered to Yunhu, D***, he escaped. In the wilderness, a tank activated his sprinting skill. Like a gust of wind, he swept across the grass, jumped up, and crouched forward. The member of the Japanese team, sitting in front of the computer, was stunned. He really didn't expect that someone would leap over the tower and take his life. Did that tank think he was an assassin? How dare he cross the tower from so far away? In fact, it wasn't just his opponents who reacted this way. Even Lin Chintao was dumbfounded. Why do I feel like I'm an extra assassin? Is this how a tank is supposed to be used? Shouldn't the tank be at the front? Oh, sorry, my hands were itching. Bo Jiu adjusted her earpiece. I'm going to be serious this time. Lin Chintao. Chapter 658. Let's go. As the young man spoke, his fingers quickly manipulated the game character on the screen. She was treating the tank as an assassin. Lin Chintao followed beside the youngster. As a tank, wasn't she running a little too fast? Bo Jiu didn't think she was fast, but she had to catch someone. Even if she didn't have a big move, she could still be a tank. Of course, at this moment, she had to have a good teammate. As one of the top assassins in the country, Lin Chintao immediately understood the youngster's tactics. He swept forward, unleashing a big blow. The moment the youngster's HP dropped, his HP would automatically recover. With Bo Jiu's support, he struck back with his spear. Hizro. Beautiful coordination. It hadn't even been 2 minutes and the beasts in the wilderness weren't all gone. Bo Jiu and her team had already killed 2 players. Through the screen, Qin Mo could see the youngster's smooth maneuvers. Lin Chintao's assassin and Bo Jiu's tank were playing beautifully. When the 5 of them were in the middle lane, they were unstoppable. That was unstoppable. They led the troops to the defense tower. The archer was still thinking that he wouldn't be able to do much with full HP. What he didn't expect was that he would be stunned first. Then came the tank's big move. The tank retreated. It was the assassin's big move. The assassin had low HP and could run fast. Even if he was hit by the tower, he wouldn't lose much HP. Fortunately, he was able to move and wanted to rush back to the city. Just then the archer leaped over. He wasn't the only one dead. Even the defense tower in the middle lane was destroyed. Beautiful. As a sorcerer, Luo Luojiang didn't forget to heal her teammates. Every step of her maneuvers perfect. Which meant that they had recovered all the HP they had lost. It wasn't a problem for the 5 of them to cross the tower and kill someone. The person in front of the computer threw his headphones. Clang. Are you kidding me? What's wrong with them? How did they become so strong all of a sudden? Weren't they afraid of being killed by the tower if the 5 of them crossed it one by one? F***CK, fight them one-on-one. Hearing his words, Hoshino, who was sitting on the sofa with a magazine in his hand, glanced at him and raised his eyebrows. You're dead. I've already died twice. That person gritted his teeth. The opponent is too cunning. First, the archer stunned me, then the tank used an ultimate skill. Then the mage controlled me. I couldn't even move. I just stood there under the tower and was instantly killed. Hoshino's interest was piqued when he heard that. Looks like he's not bad. Cunning too cunning. Especially the opponent's meat shield. Tell me, why would a meat shield run so fast? That person held his teacup in his mouth. Shouldn't the tank be in front and die for the people behind? I did hit him, but it was just a little bit. I didn't do any real damage to him. He didn't die even once along the way. How can he be called a tank? The so-called meat shield was indeed a shield in front of everyone, so they should be prepared to die. After all, apart from an ultimate skill, a tank's attack power was very low when fighting against an opponent. But even so, under the young man's control, he even got 1 kill, 0 deaths and 5 assists. We only lost 8 people in total, and 6 of them are related to him. Chapter 659. F***CK. Our last defense tower in the middle lane can't hold on much longer. Is he really from China? As he spoke, he turned to Hoshino. Vice Captain, come over and help me, we can't lose. Hoshino didn't reject him. As a fellow gamer, he wanted to see who had such good control. What character are you playing? That person hurriedly replied, Sorcerer, your forte is team control. Pass me the mouse. Hoshino turned and sat in front of the computer, the left side of his face glowing softly. When he received it, his character had just left the city. His slender fingers typed a line of words. Everyone in the group. It meant that all members were to defend the middle lane. Upon hearing the call, the members of this team had all gathered into a single line. That person stood beside Hoshino, looking at the screen, extremely agitated. Vice Captain, hurry. Attack them. Attack them. Don't go out of the tower, Hoshino ordered in Japanese. The team was about to explode. Why does it sound like Hoshino's voice? It sounds like it too. It doesn't sound like it, it's Vice Captain's voice. Hoshino. Hoshino, look over here. These esports players turned into fans at any moment. It was all because that person was Hoshino. In the Japanese team, they were split into the main force and the reserve force. Currently, among those who were casually playing online and shouting that they wanted to abuse others, 3 of them were reserve troops and 2 of them were the main forces. Moreover, they were the weaker ones among the main forces. Now that Hoshino was here, what did that mean? A world-class player. This time, we'll torture them like dogs. One word, kill. Hoshino smiled faintly. Don't move, we'll die if we go out. They aren't weak. Just not weak. They didn't care. We weren't serious just now and didn't have a team. Now, it's time for us to show our true strength. That tank doesn't know how to do anything other than sneak past the tower. This time we'll focus on him. Their words rang in their ears. Hoshino moved the mouse forward, his voice magnetic. I control. Tank block in front. Remember to only block, don't leave the tower. Yes. The meat shield took a step forward and saw that the 5 of them had brought their troops over. They're courting death. Get ready. No problem. Everyone was very excited. They used their ultimate skills to grab the opponent's meat shield. Bojo ran at the front of the team, showing no signs of slowing down. Hoshino saw that they were close enough and ordered, Archer, stun him. A ranged stun. He had clearly aimed it. However, he watched as his opponent moved beautifully, successfully avoiding the stun skill. He fainted and fell to the back. Holy shit. Little Spade, tell us when you're dodging a big move. Lin Chintao. Haha, I dodged. Luo Luojiang. Dodged +1. Yinhu. Needless to say, Yinhu dodged. I swear, I'll never play this kind of high-end game with you guys again. Lin Chintao replied. If you don't have our strength, how can you show your weakness? F***CK. If I don't take revenge for being stunned, I'll write the word king upside down. Since he still had the time to chat, she knew the back line was safe. Since there weren't any assassins at the back, she decided to wait. Chapter 660. Such an agile tank? Are you kidding me? The Japanese team's archer shouted. Seeing this scene, Hoshino narrowed his eyes. He immediately realized that his teammate's death was not as coincidental as he said. The tank's hand speed and movement were so fast that he had to be wary of it. Hoshino pressed down on his earpiece. Assassin. Here, someone replied. Hoshino lowered his arm, but his voice didn't stop. Go invisible and attack the enemy's backline. No problem. The assassin activated his ultimate and went invisible. This meant that he couldn't be seen on screen. Attack. Then Hoshino gave the second order. Logically speaking, they had a high chance of winning in a team battle like this. After all, the opponent's tank only had half of his HP left, not full. The archer had also lost some HP from the stun. Only the assassin cut off the backline while they attacked from the front. Even if they didn't get wiped out, at least 4 of them would die. But the enemy didn't know that. The instant the assassin went invisible, the youngster sensed that the enemy was about to move. The young man immediately sensed that the enemy was about to make a move and said, "Retreat, save the shooter." Everyone was on high alert. The Japanese assassin didn't expect that he hadn't appeared yet. The archer in front of him turned around and cast a stun spell at him. In that instant, not only did his invisibility disappear, he was also frozen in place. Not only did he fail to kill the archer, he was also killed by the archer and support. It happened in the blink of an eye. The Japanese had already rushed out of the tower. The crouching ultimate was clearly meant to kill the tank. He didn't expect the ultimate to be used. The assassin dodged to the left. He activated sprint and didn't get hit at all. Instead, he used the grass by the side of the road to dodge. Then his figure flashed again. He blocked his path. Most importantly, the enemy's sorcerer was very calculative. With a click of his mouse he healed and recovered his HP. F***CK, you didn't heal before, but now you're healing, the tank shouted. He finally had more HP than the enemy, but now it was almost even. Hoshino lowered his gaze. As he fought he replied. It wasn't worth it to heal them just now. Now that their archer is at full HP. It's worth it to heal them together with the tank. Healing skills took a long time to recover. Healing 2 people at once was naturally more cost-effective than healing 1 person. Instead of healing him earlier, he chose to heal him now. That only meant one thing. Not only was the opponent a tank, but even the mage was not easy to deal with. Thinking of this, Hoshino suddenly paused. Something's wrong. Turn back. However, people didn't react immediately when he said that. This was especially true for the long-range shooters at the back of the team. He wanted to go back. However, the white-clothed assassin suddenly appeared at the back and used a powerful skill to slow him down. Not only did he lose half of his HP, he couldn't even walk. The assassin had no intention of running. Even if he entered the tower with low HP, it was not over yet. With a thrust of his spear, he jumped out. Oh, it only took a few seconds. When the Japanese team's tank and support saw that the assassin only had 1 HP left, they wanted to kill him, forgetting about Hoshino's order for them to retreat. Don't go. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.